Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Do you think Russia is bluffing when it mentions the tactical nuclear weapons? Do you think they just bluff and they just are afraid to use them, or they're shy to use them, or maybe they don't have them now? Or do you think the Russians are consistent? Well, I think the Russians are consistent because they've been consistent in good and in bad. As I always say about the Russians, if they promised you a punch in the face, you're going to get a punch in the face. If they promised you $1, they will give you the $1. Now what's going on here? The US, Germany, France, and many other countries, NATO and the vassal states and surrounding those guys, decided that they are okay with their weapons being used by Ukraine to hit inside Russia. United States of America just green-lighted the use of its weapons, long-range missiles, into Russia. How far? I say how far they want, because I think they operate them, not Ukrainians. But they will go slow. They're going to say first, we're just going to hit here in Belgorod, maybe here in Kharkiv area, maybe in Sumy, but that's that's Ukrainian side. I will say, let's say Kursk Oblast. All right, just a border oblast of Russia, and then they will Krasnodar Krai, whatever it is over there. They're gonna go further and further and further. I guarantee you that, unless Russia, in its self-defense, let's put it this way, will do something that will be very, very dangerous for all of us, which is maybe use a tactical nuclear weapon here and there, and consider NATO as an enemy, direct enemy involved in a war, and giving a deadline. By that particular time, if you don't, we're going to use it on your cities. Oh, you're crazy. Try me. Oh, he's bluffing. What would you do? Now, I'm not promoting that whatsoever, but I think it's the normal course trajectory of the stone that was cast. So you throw it and you kind of see the trajectory, how far it's going to go, the left and right, the altitude, and so on. It's not hard to see it. It's like this. What's the next move? Troops, like armies in Ukraine. What's next? Nuclear weapons hitting Moscow? I don't know. What's next? These 2 or 3 options are over there, and they used everything a la carte so far. Everything in an escalation. Why do you think they will stop now? Why? Well, I would say that that's to a certain extent Russia's fault. I said many, many times, Russia should have smacked these weasels whenever they made the first move. That's how you deal with the bully. You come near my house, I tell you, one more step, I'm going to use the bazooka. I'm not going to use my slingshot. No. I'm going to use a bazooka. And if you do it, boom, becomes consistent. And then those guys will say, oy vey, what are we going to do now? Well, reevaluate your garbage. Maybe you want to talk. So let's see what's going on here. I'm going to go a little bit in a chronological way to go to what Russia says. And Russia says, we're not bluffing. We might use tactical nuclear weapons in the Western, in the Allied territory. This is Medvedev. You say, oh, crazy Medvedev. Was anything that he said did not fulfill in evilness? Now, Fox News. Biden administration greenlights Ukraine's use of American weapons to strike inside Russia. May 31st, 2024. Next article, just the titles. The war zone, Ukraine can now use US supplied weapons to strike inside Russia. The same thing. And we're going to go now to Medvedev. Reuters. Russia's Medvedev says Moscow's nuclear threats over Ukraine are no bluff. Would you continue? Would you believe these guys? I mean, after all, they're crazy, aren't they? No, they're not crazy. They're not crazy. A crazy guy is a guy who doesn't know consequences. So if Russia, Putin, Medvedev, these guys would have been really crazy, they would have used everything they got and finished the whole thing on the 25th or I don't know, of February 2022, or whenever these guys sent the first juveniles in Ukraine. That's how an irrational person does and acts. Now, let's read this article a bit here, and we're going to go to another article, again with Medvedev. And it's even worse than this one. Even worse than this one. We're not bluffing. So, Moscow. Senior Russian security official Dmitry Medvedev said on Friday, today, that Russia was not bluffing when it spoke of the possibility of using tactical nuclear weapons against Ukraine and warned Moscow's conflict with the West could escalate into an all-out war. Totally agree with Medvedev. Why? That's rational. The trajectory. It's going that way. Medvedev, deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council and a former Russian president, said Moscow's conflict with the West was developing according to the worst-case scenario and that, and I'm quoting, nobody today can rule out the conflict's transition to its final stage. That means could happen right now and you can't rule it out. And I'm quoting, Russia regards all long-range weapons used by Ukraine as already being directly controlled by servicemen from NATO countries. Thank you very much. Oh, we shouldn't trust Medvedev? There's so many people who said that I can't even, discard it. But hey, skepticism. This is no military assistance. This is participation in a war against us. End quote. Medvedev said. I think that happened from day one, which was sometime in 2014. Now, next one, and I'm quoting, and such actions could well become a sensus belli, an act that provokes a war, end quote. Medvedev, who does pa-pa, pee, pa-pa-pa. All right, next one. Let me see what these guys are. Okay, it's the same thing. The current military conflict with the West is developing according to the worst possible scenario. There is a constant escalation. Again, Medvedev says this. It's a constant escalation when it comes to the firepower of NATO weapons being used. That's an evidence. It's not a gut feeling. Therefore, nobody today can rule out the conflict's transition to its final stage, which is nuclear war. And the last article coming from Sputnik from today, 5 hours ago, May 31st, 2024. This is the title. Ukraine, allies to receive devastating response if Western arms used on Russia. Medvedev said, I'm going to show you. I'm going to disappear a little bit. Here. Right? Then this is, let me show you from Sputnik. Right there. Got that? All right now. So, devastating response. What does that mean? After he talks about we're not bluffing with nuclear weapons. Ukraine and its allies will receive a devastating response to the possible use of long-range Western weapons on the Russian territory, which will lead to NATO's involvement in the conflict. The former Ukraine and its NATO allies will receive a response of such destructive force, I'm quoting, that the alliance itself simply will not be able to resist being drawn into the conflict. End quote. Medvedev wrote on the Telegram. And I'm quoting, Western countries that allegedly approved the use of their long-range weapons on Russian territory, quote unquote, and our parentheses, regardless of whether we are talking about old or new parts of our country, parentheses closed, must clearly understand the following. All their military equipment and specialists fighting against us will be destroyed both on the territory of former Ukraine and on the territory of other countries if attacks are carried out on Russian territory from there, end quote, Medvedev says. The official added that, and I'm quoting, individual assistance, end quote, from NATO countries to Kiev directed against Russia is a serious escalation of the conflict. My friends, let's don't play, retard here. These guys are escalating. Who's going to stop? Who's going to blink? The Russians will not, because the Russians are like this. We are attacked by NATO. The other guys say, no, we are attacked by Russia. Okay, who moved closer to whom? Russia towards NATO or NATO towards Russia? That's the first one. Then you get Ukraine. Ukraine was supposed to be a neutral state. 1994 Budapest Memorandum, remember? The guarantors. What's changed? 2008, an imbecile called George W. Bush, the okay, that imbecile, he went to NATO summit in Bucharest, Romania, all right? And he said, one day, Ukraine and Georgia will join NATO. No, they can't, because Ukraine is a neutral state by the 1994 memorandum. Remember? And then, remember when that was the verbal gentleman agreement? Hey, we're not going to move 1 inch eastward our alliance, NATO alliance. Remember? And when the Russians said, hey, remember that thing? The gentleman in the West said, do you have anything written down? Ah, okay. So you're not a gentleman. we pretend to be. That's another reason why, and I'm going to use this again, our king called Stefan cel Mare, Stefan the Great, the king of Moldova, the whole Moldova, not supposedly, reportedly, on his deathbed, he told his guys around over there, you better form an alliance with the Turks than with the Westerners. Why is that? Because of the same lies, the same fake. That's what he said. Was he wrong? I don't think so. He got experience with both. He got experience with the Pope, he got experience with the Hungarians, he got experience with the Poles, he got experience with the Tatars, with, as I said, the Turks, and many, many others. Promises. From the West, no fulfillment. So he was left alone. Anyway, that's in a nutshell the history, and probably why he said, well, the Turks are sincere in their intentions, like the Russians right now. They're sincere. They tell you, we want to you up, all right? But the other ones are, no, you up. But hey, we're the good people. I'm sick of these things. So we're going to escalate. We're going to get this war escalated into a tactical nuclear weapon deployment or explosion somewhere. I hope no Ukrainians will die. And you understand what I'm saying. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just. I guess not. Let me push this way.